Good day, everybody. This is Trey Johnson with No Labs. We're going to be getting started here in just a moment with today's webinar. We are going to allow for a few additional attendees to join us. So give us about a minute and then we'll get started. Okay, I think that's probably more than sufficient time for people to join. So once again, my name is Trey Johnson. I'm with No Labs. We've had the great fortune of working very closely with the NewIntelligence team on a research project that is a part of the focus of today's webinar called Overcoming Data Struggles using SAP Business One Reporting and Dashboarding. Very pleased to be joined with by the head of NewIntelligence, Corey Mendelson, today. He'll be talking with us about elements of our research, but more importantly, he'll be showing aspects of the quick start solution for SAP Business One. So, Corey, if you don't mind, next slide. So in terms of the agenda for today, what we are doing is we're talking a bit about the No Labs research project, the things that we've discovered. We'll walk you through some of our findings as it relates to the typical SAP Business One customer. Corey will then take over and talk through NewIntelligence, give you an introduction to his firm, as well as help you understand a bit more, not only through slides with the quick start solution for SAP Business One, but also through a demonstration. It's very important for us that we are an avenue for you to have feedback. So please use the Q&A panel that's part of the Zoom platform to ask your questions. We will be sure to leave plenty of time at the end to give you that feedback and answer those questions you have. And certainly we'll also direct you to resources where you might find out more information. Next slide, please. So a little bit about No Labs and the work we've done on our research project. So we've had the very good fortune of being involved with data and analytics for the last 28 years. We spent the healthy part of the last half of that time, or 15 years, working with mid-market ERP organizations, including SAP Business One customers. And so it really was my pleasure to be able to engage with NewIntelligence through their generous funding to do some research into the ecosystem that is SAP Business One. We utilized survey mechanisms, some independent review, conversations that were had, allowing us to better engage with the community, understand exactly what people were doing as it relates to data and analytics. And for fun, we've integrated some of our survey questions that we were using into some polling items for today. So we'll go ahead and advance to the next slide. And at the same time, I'll go ahead and launch the first of two polls. And so at this point, the attendees that are attending this live should be seeing a poll on the screen that basically says, what do you use for analytics and decision-making with your ERP? There's a few different options here, one of which is SAP Analytics Cloud. The other is Crystal Reports. Excel is another option. Other BI products like Power BI or Tableau or others. And then finally, nothing really. So we'll give it just a moment for people to finish up the poll. Great. And so I'll go ahead and conclude the poll. In terms of the feedback that we've gotten, it looks like the audience is pretty split between nothing really and Crystal Reports. It doesn't look like there's much use of SAP Analytics Cloud, which is not really a surprise based on the things that we had previously learned. So go ahead and next slide, please. So in fact, let's talk a little bit about the typical SAP Business One customer. Many of you may not be aware, but SAP has more than 80,000 Business One customers globally. So we didn't obviously get a chance to communicate with all 80,000, but we did use survey mechanisms and other things to collect feedback as to what a subset of those customers in North America are doing. Furthermore, we had the opportunity to explore some dialogue with some of the 35 plus partners in North America that SAP has for their SAP Business One product. The most poignant results were that nearly everybody has a basic reporting capability that's really facilitated via Crystal reports. I think that's kind of the standard. What was a little bit surprising is that of the audiences that we engaged with, very few were doing anything more advanced with analytics. Probably not as a result of not wanting to, but just not having an ability to get there. And we'll explore the whys in just a moment. Very few have access to all the data that they want. So all the data really means more than just SAP Business One, but also other ERP products, potentially third-party products, other applications like CRM and the like. And the ability to combine other sources of data for the bigger picture were important, but most people weren't quite there just yet. So we'll go ahead and go to the next slide. And so that logically leads us to some questions as to why. And so we really, for the purposes of simplicity in our demo, our webinar today, wanted to address two questions. Why are customers without more than reporting? For starters, the feedback that we got was the tools seem overly complicated in terms of getting to more than just simple reports, Crystal reports and the like. There was a sentiment that there was an absolute need for really deep knowledge of SAP Business One as an ERP platform, that it wasn't very easy to go in and just start building out analytical content, but rather there was a need to understand where to go to look for that data. Many of the customers that are SAP Business One customers are mid-market organizations. So that's small and medium businesses, all the way up to potentially businesses of some good size. But for those that are on the smaller end of the spectrum or the medium end of the spectrum, there's always limited bandwidth. There's not dedicated staff that are actually pulling together the data and allowing for the reporting that the organization wants to do. And lastly, and not lost on those of us that wear financial hats, is the cost to get up and running with an analytic type solution seems to be a bit extreme. And we'll talk a little bit about that in the context of things like SAP Analytics Cloud for sure, but it's also probably a point that Corey will help us navigate as well. So in terms of partners, we were also exploring, through our dialogue with partners, where are they not generally driving more use of data and analytics within their customers? A big part of it is they're focused on building out the core ERP services that you as their customers need. They're automating business processes. They're potentially bringing in some integrations from other solutions and those sorts of things. Most partners, by their own admission, they don't have a lot of data and analytics skill sets beyond simple reporting. It's not a negative, not a criticism. It's not something that they do often. There's very rarely an incumbent technology that they're using beyond obviously Crystal reports. And SAP Analytics Cloud, we heard from more than one, isn't really suited for the SAP Business One customers because there's just not any out-of-the-box capability there. And most customers don't necessarily want to fund building that capability. Lastly, and certainly not least, in terms of why partners don't engage in driving more data and analytics, is the most knowledgeable staff that would need to be part of that. They're always focused on bigger implementations, on other client work that is the bread and butter of what the partners do. So what we'll do is let's go focus on one more polling question, and then we'll transition to Corey. So let me just fire up this last poll. Oops, I need to click the back button. My apologies. There we go. So this secondary polling question really is just one that came directly out of our surveys. And it's, how does your organization prefer to view data for decision making? Reports, dashboards, spreadsheets. And spreadsheets means, we're really focused on tables of information. We don't really want to see anything visually. And then lastly, not sure. So interestingly, I'll give it just another couple of seconds here. there we go. People have entered their results. What we're seeing is that people would probably like to see dashboards, but there was no real indication of the spreadsheets, which is probably a real positive because they aren't the most telling of analytical interfaces. And there weren't any that were unsure. So a little bit of reports, a whole lot of dashboards, which makes a lot of sense. So, okay, well, very good. Well, so it's really my pleasure to kind of pass the baton here to Corey Mendelson. Corey is going to lead us through kind of the second part of the webinar for today, talk from his real practical realm of experience. He's been around data and analytics probably longer than I have. His company has just recently celebrated their 15th anniversary, which is a very big milestone in terms of serving ERP customers. And so with that, Corey, I'll just pass the torch to you and we'll carry on.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Troy. I appreciate that. So first and foremost, just before I get started, if there are questions that people have throughout this session, please feel free to put those questions in the Q&A section, and we will more than happy to answer those questions at the end of the presentation in our Q&A section. Okay. So first of all, I want to thank everyone for attending today. I really appreciate you sitting in on today's session and understanding what we've done with regards to SAP Business One from a reporting, dashboarding, planning, budgeting, and forecasting perspective, just what we're offering the SAP Business One community in terms of insight, in terms of how they can use that information. So our office, in terms of who we are, well, we're a privately held company founded in 2008. Myself, I've been in the analytics space now for just under 30 years. Our global headquarters is in Montreal with various sales offices around. We are an IBM, Microsoft, and SAP partner. We have a team of certified experts focusing solely on business intelligence from a reporting, dashboarding, planning, budgeting, and forecasting, leveraging IBM analytics solutions. Some of our verticals that we cover, from distribution to manufacturing to industrial to a variety of other areas, but a very strong focus on SAP Business One, as well as some other industries or other ERP platforms that we cover, but we have a major focus with regards to SAP Business One. So what did we really create as a solution? At the end of the day, what we've done is we've created a tool for SAP Business One customers to be able to work and do their own thing from a reporting and dashboarding perspective, so they can empower themselves without having to rely on third party. That's really what we've done. And we want to really empower them. That's one of the biggest key features that we wanted to do, because again, customers want to be able to do things on their own without having to rely on others. And that's really what the power of the solution provides. It's giving them something to start with. And what we've done is we've taken the business intelligence tools from IBM and we've pre-built it with our SAP Business One data warehouse. So which is really a reporting database, for lack of a better word, that has been designed and created specifically for Business One. And this is something that customers have a great starting point, so they do not have to reinvent the wheel. But at the end of the day, it gives them a starting point, but also gives them the ability to customize it. So once they have this in play, they have the ability to add additional reporting fields, whether it be fields that they want to be able to report on, or whether it be a user-defined field, also known as a UDF, or any sort of user-defined tables known as UDTs that they want to integrate into the solution, have that ability. But not only are we able to bring in SAP Business One data, but we can also bring in other third-party data as well if there is other information that they want to report on. So we're not solely required or designed to be able to bring in SAP Business One data. It's what it's been designed for, but it also has the capacity to bring in other external data sources on a needed basis. So our solution has a variety of features. So from a baseline, we support both SQL Server and HANA of Business One. You can deploy this either in the cloud or on-premise. So for those of you that are still running on-premise versions of SAP Business One, we can leverage your existing infrastructure that you already have in play. There's full-blown data security, so you can control who can see what in terms of the data. You could also control things by a user in terms of what they're allowed to see, whether they're allowed to see cost information, whether they're allowed to see certain folders or certain information, even down to the level of being able to restrict salespeople, as an example, to only be able to see their data. The entire solution is browser-based, meaning that there's nothing physically installed on the end user's machine. There is a server component, but from an end user perspective to interact with the solution, it's all browser-based or app-based from a mobile application perspective. You also have the ability to work with the solution and save any of the content. So you can save that content, be it as a Excel spreadsheet or as a PDF, but you can also have the ability to automate that and schedule those things so those are received on a scheduled basis, on a daily basis, weekly basis, in the format that that particular user or users would like to receive the content. So again, it's really technology that pushes out the information if you want, but you can also pull it on an on-demand basis as well. In terms of the solution, so the solution basically has, from an architecture perspective, has a variety of things that kind of come up. So what we have in terms of the solution, we have the areas where we can bring in a variety of data sources. So those data sources that we're talking about are going to be it SQL Server, be it Excel data sources, be it cloud data sources, be it CRM, or any other ERP that kind of comes into play. Now, one important thing to make mention of is that our solution footprint covers three main areas of SAP Business One from a solution perspective. That's the operations side of things. We have the GL financial reporting side of things, and then we have the sales budgeting and forecasting. So those are the three main pillars that we have in terms of solution that customers can pick and choose which they want to start with. But from an architecture perspective, as I mentioned before, we also have the ability to bring in the data from various sources, not just SAP Business One. Now, once we have that information, we have the ability to extract that information from the various data sources. And we have our own methodology that we use and our own information that we use. So it's called ICI, which allows us to connect onto either SAP Business One or other data sources to bring it into our staging area. Now, our staging area is really an area that allows us to consolidate all information that we want to be able to report on in one particular area. So it's a landing zone for all that information to be centralized in one area. Then what we do is we take that information and we bring it into what we call a data warehouse, which is what the end user is going to be reporting on with regards to the reporting tools. So if there's a variety of data sources, if we're pulling in 80 or 90 tables from SAP Business One as an example, we're basically optimizing the data warehouse for reporting purposes. So it's easy for the customers to work with so that they don't need to understand the technical understanding of the different fields, the different relationships and so forth inside of the database. And from there, we then take that information and we bring it into IBM Cognos Analytics or Planning Analytics to be able to consume that information from a reporting perspective. Okay. So in terms of what we provide out of the box as a solution, today we're running with 20 different subject areas that we cover, from quotations to orders and invoicing and inventory to a variety of other ones that you're seeing up on screen. Some of the newest ones that we recently introduced, which is AP Detail, Customer Price History, as well as Fulfillment Reporting. These are new additions that recently got added to our solution. And this is something that we're always adding to. We're always getting requests for new coverage of areas that we may or may not have inside of our footprint. And we're always willing to work with our customers to be able to deliver those additional modules, but then we make it available as part of our family of solutions. So customers do not necessarily have to reinvent the wheel. They can leverage what we've already created, and then we can kind of deploy that into their environment. So again, today we're sitting with 20 modules. And again, it's a growing solution. Even today, we still have other ones that we're working on as we speak that are going to get added into the solution footprint in the coming quarter. From a user interface perspective, everything is organized in a very nice and neat area where we have what we call our order book. So everything is organized into folders with subfolders, as well as information that's there that you can see in regards to the business usernames that customers are normally accustomed to seeing. Now, the information that you're seeing here is pretty standard in regards to what customers get day one out of the box, but any of these folders, any of these fields can be changed to a different name if you use different naming conventions, or if you use different business terminology inside of your organization, these can be customized. Now, as I mentioned before, this is what we give standard out of the box, but that doesn't mean that you can't bring in other additional fields into your solution. If there are other fields that you want to be able to report on, you have that ability to bring that in as well. So anything can kind of be brought in into the solution. Again, whether it's a UDF or some other fields that you want to bring in, or a completely new folder altogether that we want to be able to report on that we may not have as a solution, we can actually bring that in to the environment. Now, what you're looking at here, you're looking at information from a variety of information with regards to items and customers and suppliers. But then we get more into what we call the fact areas, like quotations and orders and deliveries. And then you're going to see an area such as sales credits. And sales credits is a very unique one because when we're dealing inside of SAP Business One, we have a series of tables for sales with the sales header and the sales detail, but we have the same kind of information with regards to credits. And what customers today are doing, if they want to get a true picture of what's going on with regards to their sales transactions, they'll have to run one query for sales, another query for credits, and then be able to export that information, bring it into, let's say, an Excel spreadsheet, merge the data together, and then be able to get a picture of what's going on from a net position perspective. What we've done is we've taken that information both from sales and credits, we've merged that already into one area, and we've given the ability to see things by transaction type, so customers have the ability to differentiate between sales or credits, or if they don't differentiate, it's going to give them that net position right away. So we've really made it simple for the end users to be able to work with the solution and be able to have it in a simple way where they could just do simple drag and drop. Now, we've organized it from with regards to the order book, but what we've also done is we've also added another area for our GL financial reporting. And that's a completely different area. And the reason why we've created it into separate packages, for lack of a better word, is because from a security perspective, someone that's going to have access to the order book may or may not have access to GL financial reporting. So what we've done is we've created it into its own package. And as you can see, it's got its own set of folders and information that's there, from the periods to the chart of accounts, to the transactions. And again, being able to look at things from a P&L perspective or from a balance sheet perspective. And if you are bringing in information or loading in information into your budgets at the P&L level, you'll be able to do actual versus budget. Now, not only will you be able to do financial reporting from that perspective, but you'll also be able to do, go right down to the journal entry, right down to the GL transaction, to the posting and so forth in terms of what happens. And you're going to be able to see that in the upcoming demo. Okay. So without any further ado, I'm going to shift gears right now over to the demo. And I'm going to open up the platform. And as you can see, I'm logged into the system. So it's purely browser based. And here's where you're going to have all of your stuff that you're going to be able to work with from a report perspective. It's a centralized area that everyone can kind of access to, but you're also going to have your own area where you can kind of look at the information, where you have, your own area to look at information when we're looking at your own personal area. So for example, if you want to look at, reports or save reports and dashboards that are just for you, or whether or not you want to share it within the organization. So we have that capability from a content perspective to be able to see my content versus team content. So you have that ability to share that from that perspective. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and create a new report and just show you how easy it is. So actually, I'm going to start by clicking on new. And instead of a report, I'm actually going to start with a dashboard. So I'm just going to click on New Dashboard. And the first thing that's going to kind of come up, it's going to ask me what kind of template that I want. So I'm just going to choose a template that I like. I click on it and I say create. So once I have that, the first thing that's going to be asked is what the source is. So I'm going to go ahead and select the source, which is a package. And I'm going to go ahead and choose my order book, which is what I showed earlier before, and just click on add. And now you're going to see the entire order book that becomes available for usage. Now, inside of each of these folders, we have a variety of information. So I've got all my calendar information. So if I open up my calendar folder, I can see exactly what's there. I can see all the information with regards to calendar. So again, the information shows up that's under that each folder. So again, we've got that for every single area inside of calendar. I've got some additional information if I want to look at things from a relatives perspective. So if I want to look at things with regards to current month last year, current week, last month, and so forth, I can use these dynamic relative times inside of the reporting solution as well. When we start getting into other areas, like contacts or salespeople or items, if I open up the items folder, you're going to see that I have subfolders inside of there where I can open that up and I can see the different information that's there. Now, some of these fields that are here are standard out of the box, like item description and item family, which is also known as item group. But then there are some other ones that are custom with regard to some UDFs, like item category and subcategory and so forth, that this particular environment has set up to be able to report on. So if I wanted to go into those different item categories, I can see all of that information available and be able to select anything that I want. Continuing along from items, again, if I close up there, I could even see some additional information with regards to supply, where I can see some on-hand stuff. I could see some on-hand quantity, on-order quantity, and so forth. Again, this is some of the things that you're getting out of the box that you can be able to report on. Now, we also have our customer folder. So if I open up our customer, we differentiate between ship to and bill to. So if I open up the bill to, again, I've got some subfolders there that makes it really easy for the end user to look at, from a general folder where you're going to have the description of the customer, you're going to have the group that's there, the territory, and so on and so forth. And then again, you can see some additional ones that are here that are specific with regards to some user-defined fields that that they wanted to be able to look at. Closing down on the bill to, again, you've got other ones here, from quotations to orders to delivery. And as I mentioned, for example, when I'm looking at sales credits, I've also got that over there where you can see that I've got things separated from doc information to line information. So that's header versus detail versus some line key figures. So when I'm looking at the doc info, you're looking at things like invoice status or invoice number and invoice date. These are ones that are coming straight out of the box in terms of being able to report on. Some of the most commonly used fields that are there from a sales reporting, because what we're trying to do is we're trying to show what best practices are. And again, giving a starting point rather than having to build this from scratch. If I continue along and looking at the line information, you can start seeing some other additional information that's there, the line number, the line status, the item control account from a GL perspective. Again, some of that information is all there. Additionally, we've got our line key figures, which is all of our metrics that we want to be able to look at. So you can see things like sales and gross sales and net sales and costs and so forth, where we can start bringing and using that into our dashboard. So some things that I can do is I can take something like net sales and I could just drag and drop it right onto the canvas. And again, it's going to give me that information right then and there to be able to look at. Just go full screen now here. So now I can bring in some other metrics like gross profit and just drag and drop it right over to the canvas over here. And again, as you can see, it's giving me the information that I want to see. I can start bringing in some other stuff with regards to discounts if I want. And then finally, I can bring in something like, for example, like maybe like broker commission. I'll just drag and drop that and I can see that information. So again, we're starting to build the dashboard the way we want to be able to see it, but maybe it's not exactly how I want. Maybe I want to have a little bit of formatting. So I could just click maybe on net sales, an example, and I could just change the format so that the format is showing up as a number and I want to abbreviate it. So instead of seeing 459,298,093, I click on abbreviate, and now it's starting to show up as a mini dashboard. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to switch gears over to a starting dashboard that has the exact same information, but now it's already started to be a little bit formatted. So as you can see, there's some additional things that we kind of brought in here that are basically just simple drag and drops. So if I wanted to bring in information, from my model that I have over here, I have the ability. So I've got bill to salesperson and item category. If I wanted to add something else, for example, I can go into the item folder as an example. I can open up general. And if I wanted to bring in, for argument's sake, I wanted to bring in item classification or item brand for that matter, I can just drag and drop it right onto the canvas. And again, it's going to show me that information and I can position it wherever I want. Have the ability to kind of make it take up the entire screen that I want and so forth, and then have the ability to interact with that. So it's very, very simple from a drag and drop perspective. I can easily go ahead and just click on it if I want. If I don't want to have this, I can just click on it and delete it. And now it's no longer on the actual dashboard. Now, what we've got here in the dashboard is we can really interact with it. So I can go ahead and, as an example, I can see what I have here in terms of information. Maybe I want to focus on fruits and vegetables. So I can just click on fruits and vegetables and notice how my numbers are now changing. I can click on Hawaiian. I can click on, I can just click on anything that's here from sweet potato. So I have that ability to look and click and see what I want to be able to see. Now, when I'm clicking on them, you're actually seeing the salespeople that are showing up are actually getting filtered even further because it's telling me that those are the only salespeople that have, information. So for example, if I click on fruits and vegetables and Hawaiian and sweet plantains, you're going to see that that makes up $301 million. And then I have the ability to pick and choose which salesperson I want. So if I want to click on, for example, Aaliyah, for argument's sake, I can see that the combination of those three categories, looking at just the salesperson of Aaliyah, that accounts for $54.7 million with a $10.7 million of GP. Now, if I want to be able to remove that filter, very easy. I can just control click Aaliyah and it goes away. Or what I could do is I could just click on the filter button that's over here and just click on the minus sign and it'll get rid of all of those filters. And you'll see that we're showing a $459 million net sales. Now, I have the ability to play with it even more. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some additional information and embellish my my dashboard. So I'm going to go into my line key figures that are over here, and I'm going to take something like gross profit. So the gross profit, I'm just going to drag and drop right onto the canvas. Now, what we're going to see is that $77.9 million that's showing up. But now what I want to do is I want to start bringing it into context. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my customers folder, and I'm going to go to my bill to area, open up my general folder, and I've got my bill tos that are here, my customers, and I'm going to drag and drop that right onto the canvas. If I drag and drop that right onto the canvas, it's actually going to show me all of the salespeople that make up that GP, and I can see exactly what's going on across the board. Now, it may not be the perfect display that I want, but again, it's showing me the information. So if I put my mouse over each area, I can actually see exactly, what information that makes up. But I also have the ability to change the visualization. So what I can do is I can change that visualization by just selecting the actual tab that I want to change. And instead of looking at it as a column report, because what it's doing is, depending on the detail that you include on your report, it's going to try and use a form of AI, artificial intelligence, to say, this is the best display that we think that you should be using, but it might not be the one that you want. So what we could do is we could just change that display, and there's a variety of visualizations that are there in terms of ones that are recommended or a bunch of other ones that are here that you can actually choose from. One of my particular favorites is a word cloud. So if I click on word cloud, what's going to happen is it's going to show me all of those customers in a word cloud. And the bigger the font, the more GP that they're making up. But then I also have the ability to pick and choose, for example, a specific salesperson. And then I can see just that person's numbers. Or if I want to see it just for sweet plantains, as an example, I can see exactly what they make up and how much they make up from a GP perspective. So I can see, as an example, Spectrum Foods, in this particular case, is accounting for $2.1 million, for that particular rep. But if I want to see it across the board for sweet plantains and how it's going, I just control click this salesperson, and now I'm seeing it across the board just for sweet plantains and see exactly what's going on. So it really gives me that flexibility in regards to doing it. And you're seeing it from how a user can do things on their own. Now, if I wanted to start bringing things into context, Right now we've been looking at it across the board for everything. But if I wanted to bring time into the consideration, what I can really do is I can look at my calendars. And I've got my calendar years and my quarters and stuff like that. But what I'm going to do is, instead of just bringing in my calendars, I'm actually going to create myself a navigation path. So I give myself the ability to have drill through, or drill down, I should say. So I'm going to click on create navigation path, and it's going to ask me now, what do I want to include? Now I'm going to start with something that's very, very simple as an example, where I can just bring in year, I'll bring in quarter, and I'll bring in month. It's just simple drag and drop. But this can be anything. This could be salesperson, customer, item. It doesn't have to be only 3 levels deep. You can go as deep as you want. But again, it's setting up the drill down hierarchy. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this and I'm going to call this YQM for year, quarter, month. And then what you're going to see in the top left-hand corner is you're going to see that YQM with that hierarchy that's there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that calendar year, and in combination, I'm actually going to go ahead and grab my net sales. So I'm going to control click, and I'm going to drag and drop it right into the top left-hand quadrant. And I do that, again, it's going to use a form of AI to say, well, this is the best display that we think that you should be looking at. But again, maybe it's not the way you want to see it. So again, you have the ability to click and say, I want to change that to a column bar instead. And now you're looking at it that way. So now I have the ability to put my mouse on 2022 where I can see those numbers. And now I have the ability to right click and be able to drill down. And right now it's going to take me right down to the 4 quarters. And again, I can go right down to the month, because that's the drill down hierarchy that I set. And I have the ability to interact with this dashboard however I want, whether I want to look at a specific customer, whether I want to look at a specific salesperson or a specific item category. I have a variety of ways in terms of how I can look at that. Okay. So right now what we've done is we've looked at it from the perspective of dashboarding. I can go over here, I can change the name, I can call this my sales dashboard. I can have multiple tabs across, and then I have the ability to then save this, and just say, I want to save this, and just say, save it as a dashboard. I'm going to put it in my content. I'm going to put it over here. I'm just going to call it, my new dashboard. That's there is what I'm going to do. And I'm just going to save that. And now it's going to replace the one that's already there. And I'm going to click on OK. And now anytime I come in, this is going to be my starting point for me to be able to play with. I even have the ability to kind of start bringing things. If I don't want to bring things into the dashboard, maybe I want to bring things, with regards to some of the other stuff like territory, I want to bring it up into over here where I have that ability to then pick and choose a specific territory. So it's not affecting the actual dashboard, but again, I can pick and choose what I want. I could say, well, I'd like to see, maybe I want to see Canada and I want to be able to see the United States. And then I do that, and then all my information is going to get filtered and changed accordingly just for those particular territories. And again, showing me who those reps are and so forth. So again, looking at it from a variety of ways. Or if I want, I can just delete that filter altogether, and we're back to where we started in terms of our information. Okay. So from a dashboarding perspective, that's some of the things that you can do, but that's not where things stop. We do have, you can really get fancy in regards to some of the things that you can do from the dashboarding. But now I'm going to shift gears a little bit and just change myself into a report. So from a report perspective. So here's an example of a very simple report that I've created that just gives me a prompt for the item category where I can actually pick the information that I want to be able to see. So I could say I want fruit and vegetables and I want Hawaiian. I just pick those areas and I just click on OK. So it's a report that's pre-created that's giving me this information. But now I have the ability to just say, OK, I've got this information. It's showing it to me by category, by subcategory, what I have on hand and on order. And now I have the ability to just see here, I want to see chips. I can see the 644. I want to get a little bit more detail. I click on that. It'll launch another report that'll give me more of the details of what that makes up. And I can see that I've got its fruits and vegetables and chips. I can see the item descriptions. And then I have a lot of information that's here. But at any point in time, I can click on edit and I can add in any additional fields that's in the model for me to report on as well. So it really gives you that flexibility to be able to do that. So what I want to be able to show you is how easy it is for you to be able to do that. So if I go back to a report, I'm just going to go back to a new report, which is a blank screen where it just has nothing. And what I'm going to do is just show you how easy it is to create a report. So I can go into something like sales credits as an example. I can open up my line key figures. And I can go ahead and take net sales. I can take, sales quantity. I can take volume. I can take whatever information that I want, freight as an example, and just drag and drop it right onto the canvas. So again, by me just control clicking and adding them in, I can see that. And if I wanted to see, maybe I wanted to see discounts also, no problem. Just drag and drop it and bring it, and you have that available to you. So now I have the ability to look at this in a variety of ways. So I can open up, let's say, my item master, and I can see all my information that's there. Maybe I want to see it by category. Just drag and drop the category, and now it's breaking it down by category. Maybe I don't want it by category. Maybe I want to see it by, maybe I want to see it by brand instead. I can see that by brand. Maybe I want to do a combination of things. Maybe I want to see it by brand with some salespeople information. So I can take the salesperson and just drag and drop that right next to brand, and I can see things that way. Or I can do it the reverse by taking the salesperson and putting it before the brand, and then having the ability to be able to group things. So I can then click on something like, grouping, and now I'm going to start getting some summaries that are kind of going on in regards to my information of that's here. And once I have that, maybe I don't want to see the information that has no sales employee. So I can click on that and say, you know what, I want to exclude that. So just exclude it. So now I'm starting to see all the salespeople that are there, and I can see what's going on. Now, when I'm looking at this, I can also see the information with regards to the different brands. And if I want to put in some, maybe I want to put in some subtotals. So I can click on the measures that I want by just control clicking and just say summarize, click on default summary. And then you're going to start seeing some of that information that's summarized by salesperson, by item brand. Again, giving you that ability to do whatever you want. You can save this report, schedule it, and look at it however you want, and then receive it. But then keep going back in here and being able to look at this information. Now, keep in mind, this information that's here is always updating. So the next time that you open the information, because we're updating the information on a daily basis, the next day, you're going to get the new information automatically. That's going to come across. Okay. Looking at some of the other examples, for example, we do provide some canned reports that are available. So for example, if I have a report that's here, that's canned, or you can actually pick and choose, maybe you want to pick a specific sales rep, you can pick a specific period. So I'm an example, I'm going to go in here, I'll choose maybe something like, March as an example as my period. Maybe I want to focus in on all reps instead of, or I can pick one specific one. And all I've got to do is just click on finish. And then what's going to happen is it's going to run that report for that information. So it's going to give me the information of what I'm looking at. So I can see what's going on with regards to rep information. I can see what their sales are year to date, what they did last year. I can look at things from the perspective of month to date and see how they're doing against the plan. I've got a variety of ways in terms of how I can look at this and just seeing some of that information. I've got some information with regards to history, just to see how things are going with regards to prior year versus current year against the actual plan. Again, I've got some other information that I make available as well in regards to being able to see all that customer information in terms of what they're doing from a month-to-date perspective. And we're color coding things to be able to see what's doing well and what's not doing well. And again, having the ability to look at that information, not only by month to date, but being able to see that exact same information by year to date as well. So really giving you perspective in terms of what's going on in regards to your customers. Now, we've also have, looking at things from a sales perspective, but we also have the ability to look at information from a financial perspective. So from a financial perspective, you can look at this information, as an example, in a financial manner. So you can start looking at things that are there and being able to see things in a very quick and easy fashion where you've got your balance sheet or you've got information with regards to your P&L and being able to see how things are doing against a plan, against prior year, and being able to look at things in a very easy fashion for whatever period that you want to look at. And then when you're looking at the plan, you can start seeing where you're at from a year-to-date perspective, or you can look at things from a latest estimate, where you can look at where I'm at actually to date versus what's remaining on plan and where I'm going to be if I look at my actual plus my remaining plan, where I'm going to be versus what the entire plan is for the year, as well as what it was last year, giving you some metrics, being able to see that information. And again, being able to have that information right down to the detail, being able to see what's going on at the various areas in terms of that information. So really giving you some insight from a financial perspective. But not only do you have the ability to look at it that way, you also have the ability to look at it from the perspective of creating your own kind of income statement, be able to look at things and be able to see what's going on with regards to your debits, your credits, and your balances. And then if you're looking at an example of marketing expenses, for argument's sake, I can actually click on marketing expenses and then say, I want to just focus on those $70,000 that I have of marketing expenses. So I can just filter on that and say include marketing expenses, and then have the ability to then say, I want to get into more detail. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on my GL, open up my chart of accounts, and I'm going to bring in my GL account code to explode that $70,000 that I'm looking at. And then being able to take it to one further level where I can actually go into the GL transactions and I can say, I want to see the posting date. I want to see the reference 1, reference 2, the memo field. I want to see the cost center, the vendor, and the transaction ID. And I can just drag and drop that right in, and it's going to explode that information out. And I can see all this information. And now I have the ability to say, you know what? I only want to see the stuff that went to the American Express. So I click on American Express, I click on filter, click on include American Express, and then I have the ability at any point in time to say, I want to export this to Excel. So it's really giving you that, full area, whether you're looking at things from an operations perspective, or you want to start seeing things from a financial perspective. It's really giving you an eye-opening area to be able to do things on your own without having to require a third party. Okay. So I'm going to revert back now over to the deck and continue where we left off in regards to talking about that. So from a solution footprint perspective, we've got a variety of areas that we cover. So as I mentioned, we have our quick start for operations, which covers 4 main areas of the order book. So that's what we give out of the box. So we have quotations, orders, invoicing, and inventory. The finance area is GL financial reporting, AP and AR. We also have an area for sales budgeting, which we didn't show in today's demo, but we have information that's available if you're interested to see that, as well as on our website with regards to looking at it from that perspective. But the additional modules that we have that you can add on an on-demand basis are things like purchasing, CRM, available to sell, the variety of modules that we're showing here in the bottom left-hand corner. Everything that we do includes the licensing to be able to, the connectors to be able to connect to the various data sources, as well as the reporting and dashboarding solution that we showed, the administrative access tools, and so forth. And finally, the deliverables being our kickoff. We do a full install and configuration. We provide all of those consulting services, as well as train you on how to train the users on how to use the solution so they'd be able to create the reports on their own. Okay. So that's kind of where I wanted to go. So I'm going to now move things over to the Q&A section. And if there are questions, please feel free to put that into the Q&A box. I see we do have some questions, so I'm going to pass it back over to Trey, and we can kind of get into that Q&A.
Yeah, Corey, thank you very much. And that was quite good, and certainly a lot of information for people to digest. We had some questions that were coming in as you were presenting, and so I'll go ahead and kind of walk down that list with you now. So one of the first questions was, okay, it relates to customization. So what if we have customizations in our SAP Business One deployment?
So every single customer has customizations or has, UDFs and so forth, and we provide the ability to add in any of those fields or UDFs or what have you into the solution. What we always ask a customer to do is typically to start with what's there from a vanilla perspective to get acclimated with how the software and solution works. And then they will be able to better understand which custom fields or UDF fields they want to have in the system, as opposed to saying, oh, I want to include every single one of my UDFs. It just gives them perspective. So, but that being said, it's completely customizable for whatever people want to be able to put into the solution.
Awesome. No, very good. The next question we have is, Who is the typical user of the Quick Start solution?
So we typically sell to the Office of Finance, and the Office of Finance is where it normally starts because they are typically the ones that control the purse strings, but also they are the users that feed that information to the rest of the organization. So they are the ones that are typically creating the reports and delivering that information because they also like to make sure that the information is accurate. So it's Office of Finance, CFO, controller, anyone in the accounting side. However, that being said, that's where it starts. But it quickly gets deployed to the rest of the business users because what ends up happening is once the Office of Finance starts delivering or starts showing the users, the business users in the organization, the type of access to information that they have, they want to be able to, then they start asking for more and more information. And then what ends up happening is the Office of Finance says, you know what, I might as well just give you access to the reporting environment, the dashboarding environment, so that you could do it yourself, because I don't want to be your report writer. It's intuitive enough, it's easy enough for you to use. Here it is, we'll just deploy a license over to you.
Gotcha. That makes sense. And this next question is kind of relates back to some of the things that we learned during our research, and it's where do the other sources of data get integrated in the solution?
Well, other data sources, that are going to get integrated into the solution, there could be Excel spreadsheets, there could be other third-party CRM, whether it be like a Salesforce or some other third-party data source that customers have implemented, or maybe there's even another add-on that the customer has with regards to SAP Business One that they want to be able to report on that data as well. We have that ability to pull that into the reporting system to be able to see things at the same time as the information from SAP Business One, as well as this other third-party data source that they can kind of bring in.
Gotcha. Oh, very good. I know that the product's evolving, and so this next question is actually really on point one. Do you have a list of your modules that we could review?
Yes, so we actually do. We have our on our website. We have a variety of modules that we kind of make available. So there is a section that we have that I can kind of pull up, and we will make it available to for customers to be able to see. But as you see on, I'll go back to sharing my screen right now just so that you can kind of see it. We do have a section on our website that allows you to see all the different modules that are kind of covered inside of our solution, that kind of go through in detail what each of the modules are, and some of them have some links for you to be able to click on, some videos and so forth to be able to see that information. So it's pretty inclusive of every single module that we have, and we kind of keep all that information up to date as much as possible so that customers can kind of see that information. So again, it's just a matter of visiting the sap.newintelligence.ca, and then if you click on the solutions area, they'll have access to that information. Or again, we'll make that available as one of the links for people that are watching the video, we'll send that information out.
And it looks like the last question that we have, and it's certainly one of my favorites, is how long until our users would be doing their own reporting?
So it's a great question, and it reminds me of a quote that one of my customers said to me. It was actually the CEO of the company basically said this to me. He said, "Corey, what you showed me," he said, "what used to take me 20 hours now takes me 20 minutes." And I always thought that's such a resonating quote. He just said it off the cuff, and I told him when he said it, I said, I've got to use that in all my presentations because it's such a compelling thing to hear. What we do is we provide user training to customers. And to be quite honest, it's so intuitive of a tool that sitting down with someone, even for the first 15, 20 minutes, they'll get acclimated and they'll start figuring it out. But we provide that full user training to the end user to be able to start doing things right away. So to be quite honest, it's pretty quick in terms of them being able to pull up that information.
Corey, I think, I know that we're at the end of the questions here, but just a quick comment. I think that ability to have a very usable platform quickly is something that we heard repeatedly throughout our research. That people were struggling with, tool sets that maybe they'd made a decision for, or they'd made a decision for another product like SAP Analytics Cloud that really didn't bring any solution with it. It was just another tool. And that's, I think, one of the greatest things about your quick start for SAP Business One. So
Perfect. Thank you.
with that, I know that you probably want to throw up a slide here just to let people know how they can learn more. And there we go.
Yeah, so this is my contact information, as well as visit sap.newintelligence.ca. It'll cover all the information that you'll be able to see in terms of whether it be white papers, videos, demos, and so forth, as well as our contact information is there as well. So feel free to reach out to us. Be more than happy to do a personalized presentation, so you can ask any particular questions that you might have that you didn't want to ask during this webinar. I'd be more than happy to take those things offline, and I look forward to the opportunity to speaking to you.
Excellent. Wonderful job today, Corey. I know that brings the webinar to a conclusion, but you'll be sharing the recording of this for all those that attended, and obviously those that registered as well. So thank you very much.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Trey. Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.